All right. Hello, I'm Mike Steik. I am a senior software engineer and engineering manager at Focused. And this morning I'm talking with Sarah Kainec. She's a lead software engineer at Focused, been here for about 3 years, and we are going to talk about AI and evals this morning. So let's dive right in. Sarah, what's a quick and dirty definition of evaluations, or evals as they're called in the context of AI?
Sure. I think a lot of folks know about test-driven development. So writing tests to make sure your code is accurate. Evaluations are the same thing, but they're a little bit different because AI is non-deterministic. And what does that mean? It's that, it seems that it's like how humans talk. You don't know, nobody speaks exactly the same. LLMs are the same way. So we don't always know exactly what they're going to output, but using evaluations can help you get towards the results you want, and getting sometimes you do want exact output. Like if you're categorizing topics or projects in a certain way, you want specific output. So using evaluations will get you better results with your AI because you're coding towards or prompting towards a specific outcome.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, let's revisit that concept of non-determinism. So what you're saying is given most code, right? If you give it the same input, it will give you the same output. So what you're saying is, in this context, with LLMs, just like humans, even if you give it the same input, you could get slightly different output. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. So if you say hi to Chat GPT or something on any day, it might say hi, it might say hello, it might ask you how you are. So those are all greetings, but they're not the same. So it's you have to code or work with AI to get those are all greetings. We want those when they respond, but the thing is the result's not the same. So how do you write evaluations so that you can figure that out is the question here. And the way you would do that is you can actually use a different LLM to say, was this a greeting? And it could say yes or no. So that gets into a really basic level evaluation there, but
cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, and I know you've been using a tool called LangSmith.
Yeah.
To your evals. Can you talk about what LangSmith is?
Yeah. So LangChain is one of the libraries that is being heavily used for AI development. And they pretty early on put out a tool called LangSmith to help build evaluations. So you can go in there, you can build a suite of tests for various kinds, whatever you want to test basically against AI. And then you can also get some kind of observability into your application. So a lot of times we'll put tracing on in our production environment so that we can see what's flowing through our data models, and it helps us debug issues and as they come up, or see where the AI might be falling down. So it also has other tools in there, but those are the ones that I use probably the most frequently. But it has definitely helped me become a better AI engineer or agent engineer.
Okay, cool. So I guess, I don't know, if LangSmith were a kitchen tool, I don't know, what would it be? Would it be more like a meat thermometer, or a blender, or a taste tester? I don't know. I like metaphors.
I think it could be a thermometer and a taste tester combined. Because
cool. I like it.
You want to check it's done, but you also want to check that is good. So like if you're coding a chatbot or something, you want to make sure you're getting the results you want, but you also want to make sure like it sounds friendly or has the right style or tone that you're looking for. So it's like a cake. You need to make sure it's the right temperature, but if you mess up all the ingredients, it's not going to taste very good. So it's like, it's kind of, I feel like it's both.
Cool. No, okay. No, that's super helpful. Like it's like a thermometer combined with a taste tester. Like I like that. Now is LangSmith the only way to do evals?
No.
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 Okay.
There are lots of tools. Some of them are more like code. Well, LangSmith has a big UI. Let me put that out there. So they have a graphical user interface. Not all the evaluation tools out there do. There are some that just integrate into your code. So stuff like Ragus is like one I've seen, and Deep Eval. Now they might be working on tools. I haven't like looked recently, but and then there's also tools that are like LangSmith, like LangFuse is one of the big ones that's out there. It's kind of growing in popularity. I feel like there's definitely going to be a bit of a race for like what tools went out with agent engineering for sure.
Yeah, but you primarily are using LangSmith day to day, right? And you're pretty happy with it.
Yeah. It integrates really well with like LangChain, and also with LangGraph. Like, so one of the new agentic tools that they put out, well, I guess it's been about a year since LangGraph came out, but it's a way to develop like AI workflows and processes. So that LangGraph tool, they've like put a whole studio into LangSmith that'll help you to develop that as well. So it's not just the eval stuff. There's, when they added the features for like LangGraph, it became much more robust, and probably one of the reasons why we're using it primarily at Focused today.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, that's really helpful. So you've gone over like what evals are, why they're important, what LangSmith is in the context of evals. Let's drill into like why evals matter, because I know you and I think about them every day, basically.
Yeah.
So I guess that being said, LLMs are amazing. You can ask them anything, it seems, and you can get some pretty amazing results. So like, I guess my question is like, why can't we just rely on like vibes when like evaluating LLM output? Like if I ask multiple models the same question, like you said, like hello, and it says hello back, like, I don't know, isn't that enough? Like doing it like 2-3 times? Like, why do we need evals? Like, sell it to me.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that come up, not just going off of vibes. I mean, if you're building a for funsies project, yeah, go ahead, go off of vibes. But when you're trying to put like an agentic step into like a bigger code workflow, you need to make sure the output's right. So like, is it extracting, like for instance, we're working on a project where we extract real estate projects from government planning meetings. And we do structured data extraction because it's much easier to take like a PDF and be like, here's the project, here's the title, here's the, acreage, blah, 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 whatever things we want to keep track about for a project. It's much easier to like put it into a structured thing so that it can be interact with other code. Now, to get it to output the right, structure, you have to test for that. And the thing is, sometimes, every once in a while, like it'll be fine, and then it crashes. And of course, like that's going to happen, like maybe in your production pipeline, if you just kind of throw it out there and hope for the best. So that's, the accuracy is just like, it's not going to be there if you don't do evals, because it's that one edge case that could break down your system. It could maybe cause someone harm. Those are things that we have to think about when we're developing AI. So, and I'm not trying to be too alarmist when I say cause harm, but like if you're doing something like a therapy app and someone's talking about hurting themselves, you want to make sure it's reacting the right way. And so you better make sure you push through like tests over 100 times to make sure it responds correctly. Because if it doesn't, it could cause harm. So there's like the correctness, the integrating with like code aspect of it, where it's just like it has to be correct, otherwise it's not going to run. And then there's also like, is it behaving the way you expect? Like if in terms of a chatbot. So is it being a good LLM when it's interacting with people? So
yeah, cool. I get. See, you kind of just touched on this, but like if if I'm in charge of a team and I've gotten the budget and I have $1 million to spend on AI, like I don't know, can you convince me that evals matter? Like you just said, it's good to make sure that it's handling super serious edge cases, but I don't know why else would eval matter?
It keeps track of like when things backslide with like some of your agentic processes. So this happens sometimes where you're building like a giant prompt or something, though that's becoming less common with agentic development. But say you're building a really big prompt for some kind of like extraction, or it has to put a lot of thought into it. So for instance, we were taking transcripts from meetings and people were labeled like speaker 0, speaker 1, speaker 2. So they were diarized transcripts. And we had to figure out like who speaker 1 was and who speaker 2 was using code. And in order to like, I totally lost my train of thought.
No worries. No worries. No worries.
Where was I? So we're trying to convince them to be okay. Can we just
totally yeah no worries no worries.
I agree with what we can cover.
LLMs like humans, they hallucinate sometimes. Like we lose our trains of thought. No worries. Yeah. So if I'm spending $1 million on an AI project for this year, I want to spend that money wisely, right? Convince me that I should invest some of that time and money in evals.
Right. Okay. So in order to make sure your results with AI are accurate, you should spend money on evals upfront. The reason for this is when you're starting to build really big prompts that have really complicated logic, one line in the prompt can cause something to backslide. So for instance, like we did speaker identification on a project, and what that was is we had a transcript. Everyone was like labeled like speaker 0, speaker 1, speaker 2. Throughout the transcript, we used an external service called DeepGram for that. So we want to make sure like the results were correct. And it was a very challenging prompt to work on. Like it took us about a month to get it to about 90% accuracy. And this was pretty early on, but there would be times where we would add one line and it would mess up everything. It would just be some simple instruction that you would be like, why is this all of a sudden really messed up? Of course, now I'm like, well, it probably means there's conflicting information in the prompt. But like early on, I really didn't understand that. So keeping track of like when small changes have big ramifications in terms of like the quality of your product. If you don't have really good, robust evals in place, you're going to miss those things. So you're going to push something out and it might be correct for whatever you just coded for, but then the other thing that the model does upstream in the system is messed up because you changed one line on a prompt and it like had unintended consequences.
Gotcha. So investing in evals helps me. It can help me keep track of, whether I'm heading in the right direction in terms of like, crafting, the way I work with LLMs.
Yeah. In terms of
And
like,
yeah, you called out like changing the prompt. Like, I don't want to be terrified to change my prompt because what if it, breaks everything? Right. Cool.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. The models are always getting better, right? Like, can't I just
It's
like
true.
find a good prompt and sit on it and don't let anybody touch it and just wait for, the next model to come out and make everything magically better? Like,
I mean, it works for a while, but I feel like AI requires tending that like regular code does not. So like all of a sudden you have a database with a bunch of stuff that you want the AI to use. But the thing is, as that grows, like suddenly the quality of like maybe your responses starts to degrade. So like AI systems require a lot of tending because of like the non-deterministic nature. So like also just throwing a new model at something doesn't always work.
oh, really? Even if
Yeah.
it's more expensive and has
Because
like gajillion token context window.
yeah, because certain I think LLMs, like different ones, are like people. Like you could interact with Claude. Claude does things like preferring XML as structured data, whereas like ChatGPT likes JSON. And it's just like they all have their own personalities, they all have their own quirks. So like you can't just swap out a model. I think a lot of people think you can, unless it's like the same type of models. So like swapping out like Claude 3.5 Sonnet for 3.7 Sonnet, probably going to be fine. But 4.0, there might be logic changes in the model, or not 4.0. In Claude 4, there might be changes with the model that like make it have better reasoning capability, but maybe you wrote the prompt with like too much, like, and it's trying to understand the prompt even better than before, and then now it's like interpreting things more literally than you expected. You swap out to a new model with better reasoning capabilities. So, but how are you going to know that if you're not using evals?
Okay, so not only can I change my prompts with more confidence, I could, iterate and swap in the models that I'm using with more confidence. Whereas if I didn't do that, I'd kind of just be hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But evals also like help you figure out like what model should I be using? And because like you go out there and you're like, I heard this one is great, but maybe it's good at chat, but it's not good at reasoning, or vice versa. So model selection is actually not straightforward. So, but using tools like LangSmith helps you figure that out.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, we our nerdiness started showing there for a bit, but I want to bring it back to like.
Sorry.
Let's bring it back to no worries. We're engineers. This happens. So without losing non-technical audience, what might a typical evaluation pipeline look like in LangSmith? Can you talk through an example?
So are you talking about like the whole process when you talk about a pipeline like that, or?
Maybe like, what types of metrics we're looking at.
Okay.
Like in traditional software, I'm used to comparing expected results to actual results. Like, when it added 2 and 2, did it get 4? But what are the metrics we can use to evaluate non-deterministic outputs?
Sure. I mean, sometimes it's straightforward. Sometimes you could be like, is this output exactly match this other thing? So like, for instance, when we're taking projects for real estate and categorizing housing, is it housing? Is it industrial? Is it commercial? You can figure like that's going to have a definitive answer. So like it's going to be like, this is industrial, and that's what it's going to output. But when you start getting into like, oh, I built an AI therapist, how do you test therapy?
I don't know.
You can test pieces of the process, but this is where you can start looking at things like LLM as judge, as an evaluator. So you can have another LLM evaluate the output of your LLM. So it gets in a weird like inception thing. So and then you start like thinking about like, oh, are my evals, do those need to be tested as well? And sometimes they do. But using LLMs when appropriate. So like if you're trying to get a specific answer or a summary that's close to something else, you could be like, oh, you could use LLM and be like, are these semantically similar? So maybe they phrase something slightly different, but they are saying the same thing in essence. So you could use an LLM to be like, are these saying the same thing? When you can compare like what your expected result is with the result you actually got.
Okay, cool. Let me interrupt you there. So, so the first thing you mentioned was in evals, you can have, just a literal comparison. Like, okay, if I ask an LLM to categorize these meeting notes and tell me whether they're talking about commercial housing or industrial housing or, none of the above, in that case, if we expect it to say commercial housing for this particular meeting and it says commercial housing, we're done. Yeah. But the next thing you mentioned sounds a lot crazier. So you're saying that we can, in the case of like fuzzier output, like the therapist example, you're saying we use another LLM to evaluate the output of a different LLM? Like, how is that not just, judge, jury, and executioner being the same person, right?
Well, you do have to be careful with your evaluations when you're doing stuff like that, but you can use them to be like, okay, here's a cat coming.
No, I'm pro cat.
All right.
Hi, Bucky.
To get like the sentiment or something like that, you could be like, is the output on this like happy? Is it upset? Is it angry? You can test things like that using an LLM. But also just like it's like having two people in the same room or like someone checking your results. So like you can have something output by an LLM, and then you're like, well, can you go check it? Can you make sure it's accurate? LLMs are pretty good at that, actually. Sometimes they'll hallucinate if it's a really complicated topic, but generally they're pretty good at like verifying.
I think that's really helpful. So to use the therapy example, right? It's not like you asked earlier, like, how do you know if therapy is good, right? That's a really complicated question. If it gives you some advice or gives you some coping mechanisms, how do you evaluate whether that's good or not? So what you're saying is like, imagine you had, another therapist who has 20 years of experience. Like they'd look at the other therapist's notes or, listen in, audit, and they could tell you whether, it's on the right track.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And then there are other ways. So like, I do want to put out there, evals will get you like probably 90% of the way there. If you want it like truly accurate and you're dealing with things that are semantically difficult, you might have to add a human in to verify everything. That's not uncommon right now, though. I think over time that will become less common as the models get better. But as of right now, in current AI development, it's like we use evals to get about 90 to 95% accuracy, and then you might have to add a human in too.
Gotcha. Okay, so similar to how in traditional software we'd have automated tests that run the actual code, you're saying at this point in time we also have humans, similar to how we might have a QA team, banging on the app,
Yeah.
taking a high level approach.
And yeah, and it doesn't have to be like, I mean, it could be a role in the organization, like maybe you have an editor. But it could also be like not that difficult. Like you can put evals in your prod code, and then if they fail, you can be like, oh, I have to go look at this. So it's like a way to like set off an alarm where it's like, okay, we need to go look at this particular process because it did something weird. Or you can give people an opportunity who are your users to give feedback. Like you see the thumbs up and thumbs down button on things a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is probably used for future like eval development and things like that.
Gotcha. Cool. I guess I'm curious about your own experience with evals. I don't know. Have you ever changed your mind about like a particular model or like approach because of like an eval heading in one direction or the other?
Yes, it happened kind of recently with
Tell me
that
more.
real estate project where we're extracting like real estate projects from government meetings. We had originally, we're like, let's use Gemini Pro 2.5. It was still in beta at the time, but it was behaving really well. So we're like, let's do it. And then like
so by Gemini 2.5 Pro, you mean like, you know, the latest, greatest, shiniest model on the block?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Go on.
But it was still in beta.
Okay, so it wasn't, you know, completely out there to the public, but it was available for developers like us to use.
Yeah. So
okay. What could go wrong?
But the thing is, like, sometimes they'll put out an update and it starts misbehaving. So that is exactly what happened. Like a day or two before we pushed it in a prod, Gemini 2.5 Pro, like Google released some new update and it just started misbehaving. And we're just like, we're like running our evals and we're like, this is terrible. What happened? And when I went and looked and I was like, oh, Gemini released an update. I guess we're not going to use this model yet. I mean, I kind of had the thought in the back of my head. I was like, it's in beta. We shouldn't use it. But I really just wanted to use it. And then I was like, okay, no, we can't use it. So you're
saying that prevented you from shipping or pushing something to production that would have, I don't know, what would have happened, do you think, if you just pushed it?
We get crummy results. If you get bad quality output, your results are just going to be bad all around. And somebody's going to have to go fix it or clean up whatever bad data is out there. So it's just not desirable. We eventually we're like, okay, let's just do 2.0 Gemini 2.0 Flash. And that worked fine. Like that was actually one of the times where we swapped out models and it was an easy swap. So, and I was like, okay, this is basically doing the same thing, even though it's a new, older model. So
gotcha. So you were able to downgrade to a, you know, a previous model that was completely released and supported by Google, wasn't in the beta state or whatever.
Yeah.
And you were able to do that because you had evals in LangSmith showing you that, like, yep, the scores went back up. You know, this test passed, the scores went up, and you have more confidence pushing to production. Yeah.
I think it's also just a lesson learned, like, don't use beta models.
Don't use beta models. Okay. Yeah.
But I wouldn't have really known if we weren't using LangSmith to trace it either, because I started seeing odd behavior in our traces. So like traces allow you to see like what's going on in production. And I was like, this is acting weird. We need to change something real quick here. So that also kind of helped give me that visibility. It wasn't just LangSmith, it was also the tracing abilities and the application.
Gotcha. So in other words, you noticed in LangSmith, okay, the scores are going down. the tests aren't passing, like something's wrong here.
Mhm.
But, how do you answer the question? Well, what's wrong? So you're saying the traces in
Mhm.
your application helped you identify where it was failing?
Yeah, it was just outright doing strange things. And I was just like, well, I guess we're not using that.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
Nope. So, but
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like it paid dividends in that
yeah.
in that case. For evals, like, is this primarily an engineering task, or have you ever found it necessary or helpful to bring in clients and stakeholders into the eval design process?
I think it's absolutely important to have stakeholders in the eval design process because, like, if you're trying to replicate a human process with human output, you need to know what the human output looks like. What are you like driving towards? So, for instance, back with the Hamlet, like their real estate project extraction, they have an editor there, and she likes things in a very specific format when she writes up like the projects when they go and verify like the AI results. She likes things in a specific format. So something we're actually currently working on is like, how do we get to that format that she likes so that she doesn't have to make as many corrections? So that is why you should involve people who are stakeholders in the process, because they're going to know what they want the output to be, and they can actually help you build that test suite.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is, or what I'm hearing is, uh, you need folks with the domain expertise to help you in your eval design process, uh,
Yes.
especially if it's a complicated task, like summarizing long meeting notes, or
Mhm.
looking at the output of a therapy chatbot and
Yeah.
determining whether it's helpful or good or not.
Mhm.
That's gonna is that do you think that's an accurate summary?
Yeah, because like for instance with the therapy chatbot, if you have a team of therapists helping you figure out like, oh, am I doing this kind of therapy correctly? That'd be good to know. And the thing is, like, the average programmer is probably not going to know how to do therapy, but they do need the expertise from somebody who does. And they can help you build your evals so that you know you're creating the right product.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all programmers and developers probably should be in therapy. I mean, we all should be, but yeah, I think what you're saying makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
engineers might be good at coding and getting LLMs to do things, but uh, you know, uh, having domain experts involved in this process is critical.
Yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So we need to wrap up here in the next few minutes, but I guess if I'm, contemplating dipping my toe in the eval world, I guess I don't know. It sounds really useful, but it also sounds really really hard. I don't know. What would you say to somebody who's kind of reluctant to go all in on evals?
I mean, is it hard building quality data sets and trying to drive AI towards a certain result? Yeah. But the thing is, you want that quality, you want the reliability, you want to reduce risks. And the thing is, like, to get quality AI, you need to be evaluating. There's just like no way around it. Like, you aren't going to know if what you put out in the world is right if you aren't doing these kinds of processes to verify that it is.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, you have to be doing eval uh, without it, you're not going to have the confidence to know whether your LLMs are behaving, predictably and reliably.
I mean, would you ship code with tests that are failing?
No, personally, never. My tests are always passing and perfect and never flaky. But I guess, I don't know, but like, to play the devil's advocate or whatever, there are a lot of people who, cowboy code and, we don't need tests. We can write tests later. We're in a big hurry. We have a QA team that can make sure we're on track. Like, why doesn't that apply here too?
It's the same reason you do TDD. It's like, you're going to spend more time after it's released fixing things because you don't know that they exist. It's the same thing with AI, except it's probably worse than just like a piece of code. Because it's like,
why would it be worse?
Especially with a chatbot, that means you don't have control over what it's doing. So it's like, you want to make sure that it's behaving appropriately and doing the things that you ask it to, and not going off track, and putting those tests in, make sure that the quality's there, and you don't spend a whole bunch of money after you release it, like fixing it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty compelling. You need evals to know whether your chatbot or agent or whatever you're building with LLMs is behaving correctly, whether it's doing the job well, and without it, you're going to lose money. I think that's
probably most likely, unless it's like for funsies project you don't care about the output on. But
okay, yeah.
Generally in enterprise development, you care.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I've had some for funsies projects as well, and it's but I think most of our audience isn't making a Pokemon haiku generator, or a baby shark, style nursery rhyme creator. You can tell I have a small child at home. But yeah, in terms of getting things into production, like you should be using evals.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing your time and experience.
Of course.
All right. Take care. Bye.